Hello and welcome to the Sustainable Solutions webinar series, brought to you by the Master of Science in Energy Policy and Climate program, the Master of Science in Environmental Sciences and Policy program, and the Johns Hopkins University Office of Advanced Academic Programs. Today's event features a discussion with 3 alumni on growing nonprofit leadership projects. My name is Peter Huggins, and I'm the event producer. Please note today's event will be recorded and uploaded to the AAP YouTube channel under the Sustainable Solutions playlist. During the program, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function, and we will answer as many questions as possible during the latter portion of the event. With that, I will turn the event over to our moderator, Dr. Rachel Isaacs, Program Coordinator and Lecturer for the Master of Science in Environmental Sciences and Policy program.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our panel. This is the panel for Seeds of Change, Creating and Growing Nonprofit Leadership Projects. I'd like to introduce you to our panelists, Niharika Bandaru, who is the President and Executive Director for Windsor of Change, Amber Lively, who is the Founder and Executive Director for Building Sustainable Connections, and Melissa Willhouse, who is the co-founder of Mind and Environment Society, along with our other alum, Kayla Saunders. They graduated in 2021 and 2023 and all created nonprofit organizations aimed at promoting sustainability and climate change awareness in their respective communities. So I'd like to join you all for our panel discussion on how the ESP program helped them and to encourage action and to develop these meaningful organizations. Welcome, and we will start with Niharika.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for this excellent opportunity on a great Wednesday evening. I'm joining you all the way from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. So I'm Niharika Bandaru. I graduated in 21, and I took the ESP program primarily online through Johns Hopkins. I suppose I can get started giving you a bit of a background about Windsor of Change. So if you can tell, it's slightly a pun on the city of Windsor, but what the inspiration for Windsor basically came when I realized that, there's a lot of misinformation out there about climate change, and there's a lack of access to the actions that are being done at various levels of government and community. And I just started writing about it, and and I'm sure we're going to talk about this a bit later, but we into a nonprofit to turn this need or the ability for us to share information into a vehicle, in a proper structured form to disseminate all kinds of information to the general public and help the community of Windsor-Essex understand how climate change impacts them locally in their everyday lives and what they can do about it. And not just about how climate change is happening in other places, but what does it mean on my property tax bill? And what does it mean come this summer? And how can I get involved, and how can I motivate, my elected leaders and make sure I pick the right ones? So that's Windsor of Change for you.
Well, my name is Amber Lively. I actually met Niharika when we both attended the Sustainability Leadership class in Costa Rica in January of 2020. So right before the world shut down and things got really crazy. In meeting Niharika and hearing about Windsor of Change and the work that they had started to do to really knock down boundaries and barriers for people getting that information, I thought about what I needed to do in my community to make an impact as well. And again, as everything shut down, I felt powerless and wanted to do something to regain that power. And so I met with some of the local business leaders, some representatives from our municipal government, and really talked about what can we do to encourage businesses to be more sustainable. And at the end of the day, what that looked like for Sioux Falls, South Dakota was a sustainable business program, so a green business recognition program. And so we started very small, just trying to get the word out there about what we were doing. Grew into also having a newsletter where we provide highlights on things that are not only happening in our community, but are happening in the Midwest, South Dakota being one of the Plains states. It's nice to see competition emerge from trying to be better than our neighboring states. For anyone who's visited the Midwest, there's a local Dakota rivalry. North and South Dakota try and one-up each other back and forth. And so anytime we could provide examples that something innovative was happening in the sustainability and climate action world in North Dakota or in our neighboring states of Iowa and Nebraska, that encouraged people in South Dakota to want to do more. And so through that, we not only had our green business certification program, but provided a directory where those organizations could really highlight the work that they were doing, and community members could find that information and spend, vote with their dollars, spend their money in organizations that were putting sustainability and climate action at the forefront of their organizations. To engage our community, we also created a local green drinks networking organization, which, if you're familiar with the green drinks in your local area, is a great opportunity for people to just meet like-minded other green people in the area, and know that there's a community to talk through challenges and to really celebrate wins in the area. And I really appreciated the opportunity to not only learn from Niharika's experience and be inspired by that, but to take some of the lessons learned through sustainability leadership and apply them in how I approached starting my own organization in South Dakota.
And I will close out with our panelist bios. My name is Melissa Willhouse. I co-founded and co-operate ME Society, or the Mind and Environment Society, with my former classmate, Kayla Saunders. We both graduated from the program in May of last year, and we founded the organization around the same time. And this idea came from the Sustainability Leadership Program, or part of the program. I, like Niharika, took most of my classes online. So this in-person field course was really my one and only chance to do the classwork in person and really network with people in a way that the online environment might not always offer. And so the ME Society is kind of a play on words, because our trip in the Sustainability Leadership class was to Maine, but it does stand for the Mind and Environment Society. So our organization is dedicated to awareness and advocacy surrounding mental health and the environment and the connections between the two. Neither Kayla nor myself really had a background in, neither of us have worked with nonprofits at all. So this was brand new for us, and neither of us really had that science background either. And my background was primarily in communications. And so when this idea came to be, Amber was our teaching assistant in the sustainability leadership class. So it's kind of all connected. And we wanted to found this idea because what we learned in the program, it just seemed like there was so much to do and, so much action that could be taken, but neither of us were really sure where we fit into that. And I will get too much into this now because I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little while, but the program really empowered us to say we don't have to be in the science space necessarily. We don't have to be in the policy space. We can make a change and have an influence from wherever we are right now. So we're incorporated in the state of Maryland, where I live. She lives in Hawaii. So it's also been a testament to how we can continue to collaborate together beyond graduation and knowing that we're in vastly different time zones. But our mission is really to try to combat climate grief and other negative feelings or mental health issues associated with these wicked problems and the complex environmental issues.
Great. I want to, excuse me, open it up to any of the attendees. Do any of the attendees have any questions? And sorry, in the meantime, I can get us started and then, just ask the initial question, since we have ESP attendees, is how did the ESP program influence starting these nonprofit organizations?
I'll jump in first here. Honestly, I feel like for me anyway, being exposed to individuals who were in the in-person course for sustainability leadership, hearing their experiences, and like I mentioned before, namely, listening to Niharika and the work that she had done to create a nonprofit in her space. And similar to what Melissa said, kind of understanding that the program provided that base understanding of the environmental side, the climate action side of things. Opportunities for leverage became very apparent in the classroom experience, but the leadership component through the sustainability leadership course. And full disclosure, I may be a little bit biased towards this course. I do currently teach it as well, but there's a reason for that. Like, it really did empower me to feel like I had the ability to make change in a positive direction in my community, based on my knowledge learned through the ESP program. That science base, combined with the networks of people that I met through the program, leaning on their experience and their expertise, and their support to really navigate some of the areas that I didn't have the best background in. Like Melissa mentioned, she comes from a communication background. I had a geography background, not necessarily a nonprofit background. And so understanding how to navigate that space, I really did lean on a lot of people in the program that I had made these great connections with, and talking to wonderful professors and getting some advice on, how to navigate, how to best make that impact stick. And I think that was my experience anyway, was a combination between the empowerment of knowledge and then leaning on that networking base that I built through the program.
Niharika or Melissa? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I was like looking at Niharika to see, but I'll jump into. Well, the obvious answer for me for that question is I met my counterpart through the Hopkins program. But again, the class that we took, which Amber was just referencing, was really powerful to show us that it doesn't, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like I sound like a broken record, but that it doesn't matter what skill set you have or what background you come from, that you can make a difference. And I, as I mentioned, have a communications background. And so I joined the program with Hopkins because I've always loved environmental science and I've always been fascinated by nature and just really, feel complete and whole when I'm spending time outside. And I just had this desperate sense that there was more that I could be doing. And I thought that I needed that science degree or that policy degree to make that happen. I'm still glad that I did it, but I realized within the program that, again, it doesn't really matter what background you have or what direction your career is going to take. Anybody can empower somebody else. Anybody can be the change that they want to see. And beyond the sustainability leadership class, I think the fundamental courses in the ESP program were really beneficial for me because, again, my science education stopped pretty much in high school since my background of advanced education was in communication. And so fundamentals of ecology, that's one that sticks out to me because it was one of the first ones that I took in the program. Risk assessment and management, seeing how the public could make a difference in those spheres and seeing how just being aware of the different systems that exist in our local ecology and acknowledging, okay, I don't need to be a career ecologist. I don't need to be a politician. I can do my part to protect the environment just by taking little steps in my day-to-day life. So I'm going on a long tangent now, but the short answer to that question is I met my business counterpart, my better half, in the program. The idea came from a project that she created for the sustainability leadership class, but generally my desire to stick with it, if you will, because we've been going for about a year now. We just passed our 1-year anniversary. My desire to stay with it definitely came from just all of the different tools and knowledge that I gained in the program.
All right. Last but not least, thank you, Amber and Melissa, for sharing all that because that'll help me piggyback off of you guys. My experience wasn't dissimilar to theirs. Windsor Change, I it started as a blog in 2017. It's a bit childish the way that sounds right now, but it came from a very a genuine place of wanting to share what I thought was the luxury of knowledge. But what I at that time, so I'm an environmental engineer as an undergrad, and at the time I thought what I was lacking is great. I have the technological knowledge of how to, basically maybe create things that will help lower emissions, let's say, as an engineer. But it seems like what's really missing is communication, and what you need to give it traction is the right communication tools and policy tools. And that was my the main reason why I joined the SP program. And I would say confidently that 100% of the courses I took are something that I really still value. And I've kept all my notes, and I do keep referring to them, and for various things. So I would say, like, the first thing that I was after to solidify my knowledge is like, in the about climate science. So as an environmental engineer, we do a lot of, studying about the technical side of air pollution control and all of that stuff. But what are the issues that people are raising? And, if they're cherry picking data, then I need to understand it so I can understand that they are cherry picking data. So all of these courses helped me fall in love with, as if that sounds corny, it may be so, but it's really true, is how beautiful our planet is. And help, like, studying that, help me understand it better, solidify my science. The second bit is understanding communication skills. So we have definitely in the crux of a time where scientists can't just be the people in lab coats in the background. We are at the forefront of communicating, basically what it is that we find and what we research to the public directly, because we can't necessarily rely on people or decision makers to do that accurately. So it does come down to us, and SciComm is a huge sector now, because we're all realizing that, and I wanted to make sure I had the necessary tools to do that. So and thirdly, it was the confidence to be able to go out there and say, hey, I am this person who can come into the forefront and talk about climate change, and this is why you should listen to what Windsor of Change puts out. And I will credit, among many courses, I mean, I love the Great Lakes course that I took, which was a field course. I do genuinely. Okay, so I'll keep going. Yeah, so and the field course, the sustainability leadership course, basically gave me that confidence in understanding necessarily saying their side being wrong or being the enemy, but understanding what their concerns were, how to get past those barriers. This is, I absolutely love the others to turn Windsor of Change into a nonprofit.
We have a question from one of the attendees. Is what do you think is the hardest part about starting a nonprofit organization?
I can start with this because I think mine is the most recent started of the three. For me, again, I had no experience whatsoever in creating a company. I mean, I have managed social media accounts before, and I have created my own storytelling projects, but nothing that's legitimately incorporated and have to deal with the taxes and the administrative side of things. So I would say, this is going to sound really corny, but I would say the hardest part is just taking the first step and telling myself that, to fight that imposter syndrome and say, why not me? Rather than saying, why me? Why am I an authority on this? Why not me? I mean, for at least the state of Maryland, it was relatively inexpensive to file with the IRS. And I have to give a shout out to Amber because she was the teaching assistant for the sustainability leadership course that I met my business partner in. And she had already set up her nonprofit organization. So she was a great, great resource. So I would say, to summarize this answer, I think the hardest part is just getting over that initial hump that maybe not everybody feels this way, but I know I in particular thought, you know, I don't have experience managing a nonprofit. I don't have experience creating a business. Why should this be me? So coming over that own internal hump, I would say, and also if you don't have a resource to help guide you, as Amber did, it helps to have that person. And if you don't make that connection in grad school, that's okay. There's a lot of like-minded people out there who want to take action and who want to help and just don't know what their abilities might be. So I would say to combat those two difficulties is just to believe in yourself a little bit and to network. I know that that is something that you probably hear all the time, finishing a degree or starting a new career path, but it really helps. They say it takes a village to raise a child. I think it's the same as a creating a nonprofit. So I think Amber was going to say something, so I'll pass it over to her too.
You're absolutely right, Melissa. Part of it is just getting knowing where to start. You know, I did not really have that resource, and that's why you know, as soon as Melissa and Kayla said that they were interested in starting a nonprofit, I have experience in doing so in the U.S. And immediately after I formed mine, I helped another organization local to my area in Sioux Falls incorporate and make their organization 501c3 official as a nonprofit. I'm happy to do that as well for Kayla and Melissa, because it was not an easy process to navigate. And so kind of knowing where to start is a huge hurdle. I think the initial answer I was going to give is curating your board. Because that board is really part of the governing body. Depending on how your organization is established, you may have an executive director who essentially serves as the chair of the board, or they may operate independently. So understanding how you're going to structure your business, what that corporate structure looks like, and who the people are and what the talent sets are that you need to supplement your mission. For me, because we were working with building structures and things that I didn't necessarily have the engineering background in. I needed to recruit people that had building automation background. I needed to recruit people that had agricultural backgrounds because we're working with small farming operations and things like that. I needed to make sure that I found the right people with the right mindset for growth and for really getting the message out there in a way that was unified. And that's another thing. It's just making sure that everyone is buying into what you're selling, essentially. You know, a nonprofit is essentially, it's still a business, you know, as Melissa alluded to. It's still a business at the end of the day. It's a business with heart, though. And so once you have the idea, once you have the formalization taken care of, once you've got your paperwork and your incorporation done, the hardest part is really finding a board that not only really buys into the message, believes in it, but also has the right skill sets to supplement your knowledge base. So while I had the environmental science knowledge base, I had, you know, the climate change awareness. What I needed were people that were industry experts. And so recruiting those was the difficult part for me.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so sorry about my internet connection. It's 100% fine when everyone else is talking and somehow hates me. So yeah, 100% the figuring out the administrative stuff, you know, because you go in and with all the naivete of, you know, just someone who wants to do the thing they want to do, and you don't realize, yeah, you got to do taxes at the end of the day. You got to figure out all of the, you know, so if you're hiring someone, then you got to figure out how to pay them and then how to address that in your taxes, all of that stuff. And yeah, the board as well. So for me, I think I have to give a lot of credit to our current CFO, because he is, and this is where when Melissa and Amber, what they said about having that network, and it often starts with the people you know. And there's no shame. There's absolutely no shame in starting with the people you know. It could be friends, it could be family, but that is where you get the support you need. And it started with one of my friends saying, hey, I just finished my business management program at the university. I don't understand why you're doing all of this out of your own pocket, and this doesn't make any sense. So you know what? I'm going to help you turn this into something more stable, that something has wheels, that's something that will be recognized by, you know, if we're working with government, if we're working with community organizations to make it credible. And so I think figuring out that part was hard. The other bit is not getting dejected whenever there are hurdles, and hurdles are both, I would say a lot of it is digital because so much of it happens digitally these days. And an example of that is, posting an opportunity on LinkedIn and getting 100 responses, but 5% of them show up for an interview, and understanding that it's not me, like understanding a lot of times an example like that is it's not us, it's not just me. This is a part of the process. And it's not a straight trajectory. There are going to be a lot of slumps. There's going to be a lot of slow periods. That doesn't mean that you're failing, and I'm still learning that. But pick it up and do the best you can. Do the, like, I think you do need to be well versed. If it's your own nonprofit, you got to be well versed with the administrative stuff. You can't tell other people to do things if you don't know how to do it. So that's what I think. I'm still learning a lot of those, but I'm becoming more confident whenever I face similar hurdles now, and knowing that that's not the end of the day.
I did have a question from the chat. As your organizations are growing and successful, could you share any early success that helped lead to something greater?
I will say that I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna go. A relatively early success that we had was, again, partnering with somebody who my counterpart already knew in her home state of Hawaii, who had a good following of his own on social media. We established a partnership with him where he made a meditation video for us, and that blew everything else that we had been doing out of the water as far as engagement and following goes on social media. Now, those aren't our end goals necessarily of our organization. We're not an organization dedicated to being influencers. I mean, obviously, if we influence people for good, that's an extra bonus, but we're not just a social media organization. We're an organization that seeks to educate people and inspire them to take action. But that boost on social media really helped us get our account and our message and brand out to people who we weren't reaching organically. Because like Niharika said in her story, everything that we're doing right now up until this point has been out of pocket. So we have had to be cautious with how we want to spend our money to promote our organization. And we've been focused primarily up until this point on organically and just word of mouth and just posting consistently to show that we're real and we're here. So that partnership early on and just using our existing connections really went a long way. And I also, before I turn it over to one of my co-panelists here, something that was very overwhelming for me while I was still in the program was hearing like, oh, it's all about who you know, because I didn't know anybody in the environmental space beyond people in this program. But I think that if you're feeling the same way like I did, if you really take a step back and look at these people not as your friends, but as the business people that they may be, or just have a sense of the skills that they already have or the connections that you have or that they already have, it can really go a long way. And I thought that I didn't know anybody, but even just this one class that I took led me here, and it led me to create a organization, and it led me to so many other wonderful opportunities through the program. So I would say our early success that really went a long way was partnering with somebody who has a similar, I mean, his organization is about mental health and meditation and reconnecting with nature, but with a sort of different approach. So having that partnership early on really went a long way for us and got a lot of exposure and a lot of really good engaged followers that continue to share our message. And once you have that one drop in the bucket, it's kind of like a ripple effect, because once you start to impact one person, then they will share it with their own network, and it's just a cascading effect. And I'll stop there.
You know what? I'm going to say what maybe a lot of people's Science. I think when we got our first donation, that wasn't from a friend or family member, and we thought it was $10, but I was like, wait a minute, this is going, this is reaching people beyond our intimate circles. That was very exciting. The other thing that was exciting, and it's when, I mean, Amber and I have known each other pre-pandemic now, and she wanted to write for us because we do accept, other science writers, and that was exciting. And she did. We did a couple of collaborations, and it's like, wait, it's not just people we know that are sort of, they're reaching out just to help because a soft spot in their hearts for, and then they watch you struggle. But that was immense. And people, again, like us saying, maybe there's an event that we set up a kiosk or a booth at, and I've heard of you. Yeah, you guys, you know what? I saw a bunch of you like out there because we host something called Trash Mobs community cleanups. And likewise, we saw you guys, and seen some of your promo stuff, and you guys are doing good stuff. Yeah. Can I drop by and can I chat about something I can do for your organization? And just little things like that. I mean, it might not show up as likes or comments or letters in the mail, but hey, people are recognizing you. So that was great.
I will definitely echo Niharika in saying that the first donation that I got that was not somebody that was in my network, because my organization was founded and sustained by my finances for our first year plus. And and I remember doing my personal taxes and like compiling all the receipts of things that I had invested into the organization and thinking, oh my goodness, did I spend anything on myself this year? It was all on the nonprofit. So that first year was tough. And so kind of going back to the previous question, the first year is going to be tough. If you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, it's a little bit financially challenging. So the first time that we got a donation, and it was similar, it was $20, but it was somebody whose name I didn't recognize that came through on Giving Tuesday. And then this past year we got $1,000 donation, and we received a grant, and things like that kind of helped give us that financial movement were really incredible. But for me, I think I was the big milestone that we reached way ahead of schedule. I launched our green business checklist, our program, on Earth Day of 2022. And my thought process was by October, we'll have our first applicant. But April 22nd is Earth Day. And April 18th, we actually had somebody that had found our website by accident that was in our community and had applied to be a recipient of our green business program. And so that blew me away. And I thought, wow, if people are already really identifying with this certification process, and we charge a fee for it, but they're already seeing value in the fee, and we haven't even had a chance to get our message out there. Like this is a sign of great things to come. And so after that first organization got certified, it became a snowball effect. And this past summer in 2023, we got a local university to get certified under our program, and our local single stream recycling program got certified under our program. One of the big agricultural industries, they're a manufacturing company, they got certified under our program. And so like just seeing those snowballs, that first program that bought into our messaging really did give us confidence that we could keep going and that we could get the momentum and that we had community buy-in. So yeah, kind of, again, first donation is always a huge win. But for me, seeing that first organization that wanted to participate in our green business program and really shine a light on what they were doing for the environment and for sustainability was a great herald of things to come for us.
You all have mentioned financing yourselves. So what does that mean? Does it mean you have other careers at the same time? Do you intend to have this be a self-sustaining thing in the future? What does it mean financially when you're talking about financing yourselves?
So all of our organizations are fairly young, and with very few exceptions, nonprofits don't hit the ground running and fully support a full-time executive director position in the first few years. I can't speak to everybody's financial situation. I'll just speak to ours. We have a revenue base that comes from our certification fee. But it's still very small. $250 to $1,000 is all we're asking for organizations for their certification fee. And that doesn't fund somebody's hourly or salary wage unless you're having a new organization like every week. So we rely a lot on donations and on grants and things of that nature, and that takes some momentum to build up. The first obstacle is always getting, in the US anyway, and Niharika, you may want to speak to the Canadian perspective and its counterpart, but in the US, the first big hurdle is getting that 501c3 charitable status for donations. Because that really opens a lot of doors. For example, it makes you eligible for local grants. It makes you eligible for great free tools like Canva Pro has an option that if you submit your nonprofit certificate, your certificate of nonprofit status, you get basically a $120 premium product for free every year, just for being a certified nonprofit. It also makes you a lot more appealing to donors because it's a tax write-off in the US. And so for us, that was something that really did help us to open some doors. It's not a quick process. You have to incorporate in your state, like Melissa mentioned, and that process doesn't take much time, just takes a small fee. But then you also have to file for nonprofit status with the IRS, and that can take up to 6 weeks. And so once you have that certificate of nonprofit status, it opens a lot of doors, but it's still slow moving. And I don't. My network is not a particularly wealthy or well financed one. Again, I've relied on friends and family, and I've been so grateful for every $5, $10, and $20 donation. But that's not sustainable for building salaries. Over time, the accumulation of not only additional members in our directory, more donors, more visibility in our community, and more grant requesting. That's what's really going to help building sustainable connections be able to fund and be fully funded for an executive director to full-time then request grant funding and engage in the community a lot more. So for us, it looked like me funding everything outright to get started until we were able to kind of get a bank account that had enough money to support our operations. I purchased some of the initial things like our flyers, our media that we purchased a couple of Facebook ads, things like that. We had some tabling events that we did, so I purchased our tablecloth and our booth items. And so that was the type of financing that I did initially. And I hosted myself a business shower, which was attended by some of my very dear friends. And they helped to provide some of the additional things that I would need to get going, things I hadn't really thought about. Everything from tablecloth pins to mouse pads and things like that, just so that I could do the business that I needed to do. And now that wonderful network has turned those into those in-kind donations into cash donations to help fund the organization and keep it going. And like Niharika said, the second that we started seeing non-network people donate to the organization, that weight was kind of lifted, and thinking there's a future where it's not so heavily reliant on me asking my friends and family for funding to keep this organization going. And it's slow growth for us, but it's sustainable growth. It's something that doesn't task me as an executive director too much with my time, because I do work a full-time position. It doesn't task me too much with my time to do the consulting services that I do as a function of my job, or to review applications or to schedule events. And so it's more sustainable long term for me, that we are doing things at a slow rate of growth at this point in time.
I can go next. Amber, thank you for that. It's a lot. I mean, Amber and I talk quite frequently, but it's a lot there that she unpacked that I'm still learning. And it is a continuous journey. I used to fund everything out of pocket, everything. And that used to cost me a minimum of, I think, $500 a year, which, you know, at the time when this you know, the Windsor of Change started, was quite a lot for me. But once we turned it into a nonprofit, again, it does tend to open doors. First, having to, in Canada, we do, the counterpart for the IRS is the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency. So we had to figure out, there's different levels, basically, of how to register your organization. So we could register provincially with the province of Ontario as a nonprofit, or federally. So understanding the differences. And so we opted to go federally because that opened, you know, a few more grant and loan doors for us, and was better in the future should we want to expand the format of our organization to other parts of Canada. Yeah, and now there's, you know, we primarily still rely on donations. So we still, the basics that Amber mentioned that got covered, you know, that she covered out of pocket for us, we joined a local. So if you do have business accelerators in your community, I think it's really important to reach out to them, because they do run programs 100% that a lot of people may not be aware of. And, you know, they're just waiting for people to sign up and organizations to sign up. And they're great opportunities, because once you form that connection, if you go in and sign, so we signed up for a mentorship program, specific to social entrepreneurship, which is a form of business that, you know, a business that contributes to the community, part of their profits to the community, but and it catered to social entrepreneurships and nonprofits. So we got an initial grant funding for about $2,000, which covered us a lot of our merchandising stuff and promotional marketing stuff, like a tent that we can reuse constantly, or a banner, or, you know, t-shirts that we still wear now. It's about 3 years later, it's the same shirt, you know. So things like that are super crucial. There's a lot of community foundations, and a lot, you know, again, it doesn't have to be the big grants. There's a lot of, you know, different communities. Maybe it's your local Rotary Club or your local Lions Club. Maybe it's your today, in fact, my fiance, he also is a part of a charity, and he informed me that you can go to Walmart, and Walmart sort of tends to donate money to local efforts for various community organizations. Yeah, they're not great for the planet, but again, maybe you can use some of the money there to do some good. You can go to various, again, bigger, you know, I don't know if you have Home Depot in the US, but you can ask them to donate tables. You can ask Staples to donate, you know, maybe some photocopies and services. So there's little things like that, which may sound, you know, really minimal, but it can take you a long way. So it's worth finding out. It is a little bit of legwork. It is a little bit of busy work, you know, sort of someone to look up these little things, but it does help you out a lot. And also, while you're talking to these businesses, they become aware of you. And you know, when they talk, again, word of mouth is amazing. Like, social media is great, but the social media space is oversaturated. You're not gonna, I barely remember what I saw this morning. So if someone hears about your nonprofit, your business, your service through somebody they know, it has a lot of value in that. So you know, so that's all the little hacks that we sort of discovered and continue to use to this day. Yeah, and happy to pass it on to Melissa.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to watch this recording again and listen to what you just said about the organizations that'll donate, because I need to take some notes over here. But yes, to answer your question, myself and my counterpart are both employed outside of this organization that we're working on together. It is the dream in a couple of years for us to make enough money through this organization that we can leave our regular jobs, but we're not there yet. And it's a goal that we're working towards. So our expenses have been pretty minimal since we don't have a brick and mortar location, and we don't necessarily offer consulting services, for example, our certification services. But we have had to promote our business to get it out there. We would like to soon start start selling merch that will not only help us with the cost of the organization, but that we can also donate to other organizations that align with our mission. So that will have to be out of pocket. And one way that we have been able to generate a small income that is sort of passive is through Depop, which is a secondhand clothing reselling app. We have posted a few of our own items on that app, and I'm not really sure about the tax implications, so maybe don't take that advice right away, but there are different ways that you can get creative beyond having to dig into your own pocket and having to rely solely on donations. There are different ways that you can seek out online or even in-person opportunities to sell stuff. And I also do photography on the side. So another thing that we offer on our website is digital or print versions of some of my work. Don't know if that just makes it seem like I'm promoting myself, but it has been really useful to look at what we already have and how we can capitalize on that, for lack of a better term. But to button up that question, right now we both do stuff outside of the organization, but the dream would be to have this be our sole source of income.
Sorry, I did want to mention, I completely forgot. Yeah, I do have a full-time day job. I don't think I can quit it anytime soon. Just wanted to add that. Thank you, Melissa.
A question from the Q&A. What advice would you give to someone starting out their career in the nonprofit field?
I can take this one because I know I said I didn't have experience in nonprofit organizations before this. That was word vomit. I have been working for nonprofits for most of my professional career, but this was my first foray into actually managing and operating one. So I think it's really important, regardless of what type of organization you work for. The two main things that I would say to keep in mind as you either join an organization or build one from the ground up: you have to have a clear goal and you have to have a clear audience to help you achieve that goal. Having those two things in mind will really help, in my experience, guide your strategy and help you decide how to best allocate your time and budget, particularly if you're a really small organization like mine and Kayla's, where, again, we have day jobs, we have other stuff to do. We were enrolled in this program while we were getting the organization started. So obviously we had some conflicting priorities, but having the goal of the organization in mind. So, using social media and our website and these different funding opportunities, those are vehicles for us to achieve the goal. But knowing that at the end of the day, we want to help battle climate grief, we want to give people tangible solutions for how they can improve mental health and their relationship with the environment. And we don't want to feed into this like climate doom narrative. Knowing that goal and saying, okay, having this goal in mind, who needs to hear this message the most? Who would benefit the most from this message? Who would take action? Who's most likely to take action once they receive this message? Is it people who already are like-minded like us? Is it that we should spend our efforts trying to break through to people who are of an opposing point of view? So my best advice that I can give is have a clear, if you're starting your own organization, have a clear goal and have a sense of who that audience is. And of course, these things will change over time, which leads me to my second point, is keeping an open mind and being ready to accept the challenges and see them as opportunities rather as obstacles is really important. And Niharika mentioned this early on in this conversation, but not taking rejection or not taking fall or slip, I don't know what word I'm looking for. You're picking up what I'm putting down. Not taking those things personally and recognizing that it's an opportunity to learn and it's an opportunity to grow. So open-mindedness and clarity on what you hope to achieve will take you far and will help keep your head up when everything else is trying to push it down.
I'd also like to add, even if you're not starting your own organization, but you're joining one or several, which tends to be the case, right? So, for reference, my background, I have a lot of volunteer experience with nonprofits. I've been on several boards, and at one point I found myself on the board or actively involved in some sort of a governing position with 7 boards. Don't do that. 100% my big advice is don't do that. Manage your time wisely, devote your energy to the causes that matter, and really focus on the impact that you want to have and how you can best do that. And kind of leaning into what Melissa said, know what your strengths are, know what your specific talents are and what you bring to the table, and then look for opportunities for you to highlight that. If you are a great communicator, find a nonprofit that you can help amplify their mission. If you are somebody who really is into the data science, find an organization that needs that data-driven communication and at least help them on the data side. You know, Niharika mentioned how important it is for scientists to be both communicators and scientists. Take opportunities to learn those skill sets and really figure out where your strengths are, capitalize on those, and where your weaknesses are, where you need some improvement, and work to seek out opportunities to expand that skill set as well. And again, manage your time wisely. Don't exhaust yourself. There is so much work to be done. It can be very overwhelming, but make sure that you are devoting time to yourself as well, because you're no good to the movement if you're not good to yourself first. So my biggest piece of advice is to engage yourself responsibly and to make sure that you are making each of those impact opportunities matter as much as possible.
I think I would say that right off the bat, like follow that. I think what Melissa and Amber said, I think that is the order of things. Like, well, you know, make sure that you know, you have goals and you're certain about those goals and what is it that you're trying to achieve at the end. I think also what we did was figuring out if, and this is more on the very practical side of things, is to find out if there is a competing, like what your competition is like. Again, I understand that we're talking about nonprofits and about doing good, but if you want to have the reach and you're dedicating X amount of time to this every week, you want to make sure you have an understanding of the space you're in. So we had to refine our goals and refine our vision based on what other organizations around us were supplying. So there is our local conservation authority, environmental conservation authority. It is a municipal organization, but they have a very high outreach and they have a very high impact in our community. So we didn't want to duplicate their efforts. So what is it that we can provide, still be truthful to our intent, and excel at it and do it well. So that's something that, you know, you need to sort of, you should want to scope out. The second big, and I'll sort of just piggyback off of Amber here, is knowing your strengths that bit. Where I found myself thinking, oh my God, you know, social media is easy. I have Instagram, I have Facebook, but hosting and being a social media coordinator is totally different. I still struggle with it. So it is okay to reach out to people and ask for help. I don't have a lot of interest on the business side of things, but I had to learn it. But primarily it is our CFO and the person I credit a lot, who leads the business side of things and has a good understanding of it. So I think it's okay to definitely like reach out to reliable people who have an interest in your organization that can do other things better than you can. You know, I think a good sort of sustained harmony can be reached that way. You shouldn't expect yourself to do everything. Expect yourself to put in a lot of time. Also, don't expect to this be a profit generating business. It can be, but I'm not expecting to pay myself for a good amount of time. I'm doing this because I believe in it. I do want to pay currently our volunteers. I do want to turn their positions into paid positions in the near future, but they, you know, people who are helping your organization out, at least in our case, are going to be the ones getting paid first. So I think this is something very realistic that I've learned, and it is going to be the reality, I think, for a lot of nonprofits and people in nonprofits that I've talked to.
And Niharika, I just wanted to expand upon something you said, just knowing your networks. I think that's also a really key thing when you're first starting out in a new nonprofit or an established nonprofit. If you are a new person to an organization, that it is incredibly important to know where there are partner organizations. We don't do any of this work in a silo. We're only able to continue the work that we do by making partnerships. Niharika, I mentioned that she and I partnered early on, where I wrote a blog post for her. The ME Society and Building Sustainable Connections did a joint post on social media talking about the benefits of incorporating a triple bottom line and what that looks like. Finding people that maybe in your network or that are or have like-minded missions to the one that you're supporting, and figuring out how you can support one another without duplicating efforts. Nobody wants to exhaust themselves by doing the same thing over and over again. There's that phrase, never reinvent the wheel. If there are organizations in your network that you can lean on for a supplement to some of the work that you're trying to do, know who they are and figure out a good partnership that's mutually beneficial.
And I will just add one more thing. I know we're almost at time, but thinking about my own journey into the nonprofit space, I started working for a for-profit association management company, which is different in that an organization like that is typically hired by a nonprofit to fill in the cracks if they're lacking bandwidth or lacking expertise on their team. So for me personally, that was a really good way for me to segue into life in the nonprofit space, because I was working on the marketing and communications efforts for like 8 to 12 different nonprofits of different industries at the same time. And so understanding some of the challenges that may arise, but from the other side of things, with a for-profit association management company, that was just my segue. Of course, this will look different for everyone, but if your first foray into the nonprofit organization space is through the for-profit channel, that's okay, because from every experience, you're not only making connections, but you're learning more about the issues and challenges that need to be addressed by the other side of things.
I know we are about at time, so I do want to thank all of the panelists and all of the attendees for joining us. I posted all of the names, titles, and links in the chat if you all haven't seen them yet. I'm assuming it's okay if people reach out to you all and have any more questions that they'd like to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Encouraged.
Good. Well, great. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending, and stick around for a little bit in case anybody has any questions, leftover or last minute questions, and we'll see you all later.